Hey, family, and welcome to Young Ladies of Destiny, Destiny Matters virtual meetup. I am your host, Sheila Robinson. I am the founder of Young Ladies of Destiny, also known as YLOD. Let me just briefly just share with you guys a little bit about who I am and about Young Ladies of Destiny. I, of course, am a mom of two girls. I'm a wife. I'm a friend of many, and I am the fourth child out of four siblings. I'm the baby, in other words. Young Ladies of Destiny was conceived back in 2011 and birthed in 2019. We came together and had our lunch in February of 2020. But you guys know, of course, due to the pandemic, we had to shut everything down. But nevertheless, we're here now. And who I brought with me today is a few of my friends. And let me just go ahead and introduce them at this time. We have Shalara Harris. She is one of our board members, and she is also the owner of Laura Me Beautifully. We also have Tiffany Whiting. She's the author. She is the owner of Creative Tutoring out in Maine. And we also have my girl, Natalie. She is a massage therapist and also the owner of True Serenity Massage Therapy. Mm-hmm. Hey, y'all.
Hey.
All right, since I got over that, I may have missed some things, so Lord forgive me.
Good job.
Lord forgive me. So, but I have my husband in the background. He's putting in some work today. He volunteered his time. Of course, I didn't expect anything less. But what we have for you guys today, we have a discussion that we're going to be, we have a great discussion for you all today. But first, let's go ahead and give the ladies time to share a little bit about themselves. Shalara?
Hi, everybody. I'm Shalara Harris, the owner of Change Me Beautifully. I am also a consultant of Mocha Makeup and Skincare, where I focus mainly on facials and skincare. Natural skincare products is what we use. I have known Sheila since we were in junior high school, and I am grateful for Young Ladies of Destiny. I thank God for old relationships as well as new relationships, and I have a passion for working with young ladies. I mentor to young ladies through the industry, and my thing is letting young ladies know that they can be fabulous in their faith.
Amen. All right, thank you, Shalara. And Natalie D, go right ahead, ma'am.
Hi, I'm Natalie Hamilton, and I am a massage therapist and owner of True Serenity Massage. And I also sit with Peyton Agency. I've known Sheila for at least 20 years, and I'm just really honored to have the opportunity to speak to young people, young ladies, especially young women of faith, and just give some guidance because it truly is needed in today's time. So I'm just honored to be here, and I thank you for the opportunity.
Awesome. Thank you, Natalie. Tiffany?
Hi, my name is Tiffany. I am the CEO of Creative Tutoring. It's spelled CREATIF -tutoring. I'm also the author of It's a Beautiful Day. It's a beautiful morning. It's a beautiful day. It's a kid's book that helps them to navigate when they're having a bad day.
Okay. Awesome. Tiffany, would you by any chance have your book?
You mean like
I've seen it on social media.
A link? Yes, I can get a link.
You don't have a physical book with you?
A physical book, not with me over here, but I can share a link if you like.
Okay, well you can probably do that. I don't know in the comment section. I don't know, but I guess you can go back and share it at a later time. Okay. But listen, I probably missed some things, so I apologize in advance because I just ran straight through everything. So this is something for me. But anyway, nevertheless, we're here now. Our topic discussion today is going to be basically about challenges and overcoming them, and also about transitioning as well as challenging faith. And so what I'm going to go ahead and do is present some questions to you guys, and you guys can kind of help me respond to those. Okay, so let's go over this first one. The first question is, how has life changed for you during the pandemic? Because I know, of course, that the pandemic was a surprise pretty much for everybody. I know even in my own personal life, I've had to make many adjustments in the way that I do things. And I know everybody know already that we have to wear these masks, and we have to just make sure that we protect ourselves, because we want to make sure not only do we protect ourselves, but we also want to protect those that are in the household with us as well. But for you all, just kind of share with those today about how life has changed for you during this time. We'll start over there with Shalara.
For me, during the pandemic, it was, I would say, another level for me, a closer walk with God, should I say. And the reason I say that is because during the pandemic, anybody that knows me knows that I am the medicine carrier. I am the quote unquote clean person, because I wipe everything down all the time. And when the pandemic came, when COVID came, I was like triple that. And I literally had my children in like this bubble. And when we go to the store, it's like, hold on to me, don't touch nothing, don't touch nobody, put your hands in your pocket. I mean, literally, we were in the bubble. We had this like strategic plan, bring the groceries in the garage, wipe everything. It was like certain things were like really, really strategic. But at the same time, every morning we were saying Psalms 23 and Psalms 91, and we were saying we were covered in the blood and God guide us. And, we just kept professing that even as we went to work and as they went to school. But I would wipe my car down every day. I had a strategic routine. And somebody be like, can your boys go somewhere? No, my boys can't go nowhere. Don't ask them to go nowhere. It's a pandemic out there. But yet and still, I'm saying that I believe in God. I trust in God. I'm covered in the blood. And lo and behold, I get COVID. And everybody's like, oh, she got COVID? If she got COVID, everybody get COVID. Because I went by every rule, did everything. And when I got it, I had it for 3 months. But towards the end of my process of having COVID, basically it was an eye-opener. God was letting me know the reason he gave me COVID was, and I'm not going to say per se gave me, I watch how I say it, but I had to experience it so that I wouldn't just walk around and say, I trust in you, God. I believe in you, God. We're covered in the blood. I would actually know that we were covered in the blood once I got through this. Once I got through this and I knew I could get through this, I knew we were actually covered in the blood. Because he was like, every day you're saying these scriptures and you're professing this and you're professing that. But then you turn around and you're scared to go in the store. You're scared to let go of your kids' hands. You're scared to go here. You're scared to go there. You're living in a bubble. And he was like, if you believe in me, what are you doing that for?
Wow.
And basically, I had to experience that for a reason, and I had to get it. It was like an aha moment. I needed that. So this pandemic has really made me understand, you can't just talk it. You have to also walk it, as well as literally believe it. Sometimes we think we're believing it, but we're really just not. We're really just accustomed to the scriptures or accustomed to saying it when we're really not believing it. So it's drawing me closer to understand, like when I say something, I better really believe it or better really have the faith. That's one of the major things that I've taken away from this pandemic, and also taking away family, family and time and relationships. Don't take anything for granted.
That's a word.
Don't take anything for granted. I've taken that into consideration because I've always been like, oh, we'll do it later. Oh, I'll talk to you later. Talk to you tomorrow. I'm busy. Don't have time because I'm an only child. So I'm the take it or leave it type person. I can deal with you or without you. And I'll deal with you tomorrow. Don't got time. Don't want to talk to you. And, that was another thing I had learned in the pandemic. You can't do that. Life is too short.
Life is too short. Let me ask you something, Shalara, and speaking of that, and like during the time that you did have your moment with COVID, how was that for your children? How was that for them to see that you had to go through, or even just being away from them? How was that for them?
They were with my mom for the 3 months that I was at home by myself with COVID, and they were worried. They were concerned. I experienced different levels of COVID, but they called all the time. They checked on me. Some days were worse, better. Some days were worse. I did end up going to the hospital one time, but it was because throughout the COVID, I ended up getting bronchitis, which could have turned into pneumonia, but it didn't because they caught it before it turned into pneumonia. So I ended up just getting medicine and getting an inhaler, which now I take an inhaler a lot because of the COVID. I use an inhaler. But it was stressful for them because they were worried and they were concerned. And one thing I did learn during the COVID is that it's not just physical. And I'll speak for me. For me, it wasn't just physical, it was mental as well. Because if you're the type of person and you lay down and you succumb to that, it could really just take you over. If you're like, oh, I got it, it's killing everybody, I'm gonna die too. And not making light of it because a lot of people have passed away from COVID.
Yes.
I'm just saying, it was some nights I did feel like I was gonna die, but I fought through it.
Yeah.
I kept telling God, I was like, no, not now. I was like, not now. I kept telling God, not now. And I kept praying and fasting and looking at inspirational stuff and funny stuff. And, everything I looked at wasn't Christian. It was funny stuff, just anything that was motivational. I just kept on the right track. Anything that built me up, lift me up, moved around, because it was a lot on my children. They were away from me for 3 months. I woke up some morning and thought I could hear them in the back room talking. I thought something was wrong with me. Like, what is going on up in here?
All right. Well, thanks for sharing that. Thank you, Shalara. And I can definitely understand that. For some of you guys know the situation that we had with my daughter having the same thing. So it's like you can never really just be too careful. You just don't know. And I think that's one reason why we just really have to trust in God. We thank God for vaccines. We thank God for a lot of other things, but also at the same time, we can only really trust him in order to kind of keep us during these times, because we don't know what's to come. And there's the only solution is God. He's the only one that can kind of keep us covered, because like Shalara had stated, even with all these different things, she still caught COVID. So we just really have to be really safe out here in these streets. Natalie, for you, ma'am, how has things changed for you during the pandemic?
Well,
and how you do
I
business
did have
as well. I'm sorry, go right ahead.
That's okay. I did have to close True Serenity Massage down. So I really, because I was doing that and sitting with patients part-time, so I started sitting with patients full-time. And it was a challenge to shut down because you almost feel like you have failed, but I knew that it was best to do that with everything that had started to happen, and even with the peak of the pandemic happening. And I remember we went to church, and like March the 15th was the last time we were in the building for service. And the next thing I know, our pastor came in contact with COVID, and he had to go into the hospital, and that shook me. It's like, we can't lose our pastor, but in that, my trust in God, my faith has increased, has strengthened, because although I wipe down, I spray, sitting with the patients, being around, literally being in the midst of COVID, because some of the patients had it and they had to remove them, wearing the mask and all of that. My strength, my faith in God increased, because it's like I can do my due diligence. Just like Shalara, you spray, you wipe, you make sure you wash your clothes, make sure that you shower and everything. When I was coming home, when I'd go to the grocery store, I would spray down the carts, I would wipe down everything. But my main focus was, what I had in my mind and what I was actually calling it was the defeated virus. And that I knew, God knew that this day would come, and that he told us these days would come. But what kept me, he was still in control.
Absolutely.
That he is bigger than this pandemic.
There you
bigger
go.
than this virus. So all I could do was really trust God and just do my due diligence, because we can only do so much.
Mm-hmm.
God gives us this, yes, and we can only do so much in our, for ourselves. But there are things that's a God job. The pandemic was a God job, and it is a God job. And so, um, knowing that and how important it was to keep my mother safe, that was my main priority. I'm in the house with my mother, still have to work and pay bills. The bills didn't stop.
Right.
Needing to get food. And even though people were clearing the shelves, toilet paper, and all of
Oh,
that
yeah.
stuff you've experienced,
None.
you
I
still
remember
had
that.
to do your duty. So, knowing that and having to close down but still having to work, all I could do was pray and say, God, I need to work. The essentials that we need, and go forward.
Mm-hmm.
Because I could have just stayed at home scared, you know, um, and not work and not sit with the patients. The patients still needed me. And by that time, they had shut down a lot of places,
Mm-hmm.
that a lot of facilities with patients, so only the workers could get in. So you have to remove yourself and say, you know what, these people can't even see their loved ones. You may
Wow.
be the
That's
only
something.
love or that they
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
see. So you have to go ahead and push past your own and just let God lead you. So, and my prayer life, talk about a prayer life, praying to God to give you strength to
Yes.
go out
Mhm.
there. That's also free. And one thing that I did, I wrote down some encouraging scriptures, and I
Yes.
just put them over the bed, over my head. So I would have the word right over my head. And if
Mm.
ever I felt it, I could look up and I could just touch them. I could touch my wall and just, in the name of Jesus, or just read it out loud. But I keep it over my head so I can have my mind literally focused on that. And I can look and say, God, this is your word. It is true, and
Yes.
I'm just gonna trust you. So those really, really have kept me, and just trusting God, because He is bigger than you. So
Amen.
Amen.
Thank you for sharing, Natalie. And I can totally relate. Thank you for that. I know I know it has been a challenge for many people, but I know Tiffany, your situation may be completely different from Shalara's and Natalie's. How has things changed for you during the pandemic?
When the pandemic hit, I was working in a public school. So we went from, face to face to online. And I work with children that have disabilities. And after that ended, I really just didn't want to deal with the pandemic in school. So
Mm-hmm.
I started pursuing entrepreneurship. And I knew that I was called to, minister to children and work with them somehow and education and stuff. So I just kind of went through different phases with entrepreneurship and learning about it. That's how I met Sheila.
Yes.
Um, but I just went full speed into purpose. That's where my focus was. And that really helped me during the pandemic, is to just the things that I have felt too busy to do before. I started pouring myself into it, and that's how I got the book finally done, and just started some businesses. So I feel like it was good. It was good for me in that way.
And you know what? And I'll have to say that I've heard like so many different stories and testimonies about the pandemic. I'm like, okay, well, everybody's worked up because of the pandemic, because we've never lived in a time like this before.
Right.
At least in our generation, we've never lived like this. I don't know what was probably worse prior to our existence, but I just know this is like something that has caused a lot of people to become very anxious. There are so many people that are like dealing with depression. And like, even when I read like articles, I'm reading like, even reading about how children, it don't just affect adults, because we have our challenges because we have bills and we have like adult responsibilities. But at the same time, it has also taken a toll on children because of the fact that now they had to go from like in-person schooling. And from in-person schooling, they've had to, you know, do the homeschooling, which can sometimes be stressful, especially when you are so used to being hands-on. And now just trying to keep up with the times and trying to adjust and adapt. It can be a challenge because, like, even with my own daughter, my youngest daughter, Chanel, I'm like, this is going to be a challenge all by itself because this girl, first of all, she don't like school, and she let it be known. At least that used to be her. That used to be something that she used to say. She didn't like school, so to have to be home, she's laying in the bed doing these assignments. I'm like, girl, what are you doing? I'm like, get up. You got like real work to do. But I'm like, but even in those moments, I never took the time to like consider what she had to go through, because I'm like, she's such a social butterfly and needing to be around people. That's her thing. Like, that's not my issue. I can be alone, like Shalara was saying, but at the same time, that's not everybody's situation. So it can be hard. But I can say that sometimes situations like this can be good for some, and then for some, it may not be all that great. But I know for me, personally, I can say that it's been great, because during the past year and a half, I've been able to be home. I'm not sure if some of you guys are aware, but I was laid off of my job for like close to 20 years. But at the same time, God has allowed me to be with my family. I don't think I've ever spent this much time around my family. So it just let me know that, you know, family is important, because life changes. Life happens to all of us. We can't prevent that. But at the same time, we serve a good God who continues to provide and make ways. And so being able to be home with my family is one of the good things that came out of it. And like some of you guys may not know, but, you know, we had a house fire, so we had to move out. So just imagine not only dealing with the pandemic already, where people taking all the toilet paper off the shelves, but you lose basically like everything, all that you know. God is like, he's like totally doing when God say he's doing a new thing, it may not be the new thing that you think is a new thing. It could be something completely different that's going to challenge you, but at the same time, it's challenging you, but it's also positioning you for something better. Because long story short, the house caught on fire, but we're back in the house now. Everything is new. So not only did we we're still in the pandemic. So not only fighting COVID, but we're back in the house, we're in a better position. So now we can do things like this. So we can focus on things that God has put in us to do. So that's one of the great things. But just to have a peace of mind, just to be able to spend more time with God. And as Shalara was saying about how you don't really know what kind of faith you have until you are actually put in a situation. You can read all the scriptures that you want to, but when life hit, not only can you just sit up there and read scriptures, but you got to apply the word. You got to apply what you've been reading about, because life happens to the best. I mean, life happens to the best of us all. No one is exempt from dealing with life problems. So this pandemic has taught us, at least taught me, where my faith was in him, because it's one thing to say that I have faith, but then it's another thing to actually live out that thing that God has, you know, what he has been showing us all along. But we have definitely been challenged, but not only have we been challenged, but we've been stretched. But I can say through it all, God has shown himself to be faithful. And that's why we're here on this live today, because God is good. He is faithful and he is consistent in all of his ways. But that's my life change. That's what has happened to me during this pandemic. My next question, ladies, is let me just make sure that I'm saying this correctly, because I know that everyone deal with life differently. You know, some people, you know, they go to substances, and some people, they just find themselves to remaining busy. But my question is, what have you had to do in order to make sure that your mental health was being maintained? Like, for instance, like with self-care, what have you had to do mentally to prepare yourself to deal with all the things that you've had to deal with?
Who you want to go first?
My bad, y'all. Laura, you speak and go right ahead.
Mentally, I've started to focus more on me. And what I mean by that is sometimes we as women feel like it's our duty. Maybe it's just who you are. Maybe it's the way you were taught. Maybe it's the way you were raised. But we feel like it's our duty to be superwoman, to be the all in all, to be the do all, be all, know all for everybody, for your household, their household, mama them, uncle them, auntie them. And that's the way I feel like I am sometimes. Because I'm an only child, but then I'll be trying to be there for everybody. And sometimes that can get frustrating, especially if you have life happening to you outside of a pandemic. So you got your own situations going on. Then you have a pandemic going on. Then you got everybody pulling you from every direction where you like, I'm not an octopus. It's only one of me.
Right.
You can get stressed and you can get overwhelmed. And I started having to do the self-care. I started having to just take a minute out just to do me. I mean, yeah, we're in a pandemic, but I got out. I didn't care if it was a minute just to write. I didn't care if it was a minute just to dance. I didn't care if it was a minute just to go get me a pedicure. I would safely go out and go get me a pedicure, where at first wasn't finna catch me going to go get no pedicure. I had my own drill and set in there. I was showing my daughter. She was like, Mom, I have my own foot massager and drill and everything else in there.
All that.
I wasn't going nowhere. But for the self-care, I just needed somebody to pamper me. I needed to step back. I need to breathe. So I started doing stuff that I don't normally do. Let's go get your nails done. Go get your toes done. I don't care what it is. If it had to just be me going to go get, now coffee is something I always go get, but if it just had to be me drinking my coffee, sitting in the parking lot, inhaling the fresh air, whatever it was,
yes,
to just take a minute just to do me. I mean, now I have spa days for myself once a month, depending on what's happening. Sometimes twice a month, depending again on what's happening.
Right.
I take a time out. I'm not doing nothing for you, or you. It's about me. And I go get my whatever I need, my massage, my waxing, my steams, whatever I need to get done, I get done. And I don't feel guilty about that. Stuff like that, you used to feel guilty about that.
Yes.
I don't feel about those kind of things no more. Because I feel like I'm going to be there for everybody else when they need me to be there. And I can't keep doing that if I'm not there for myself. I'm not a healthy person. How can I be there for you, and you, and I'm not healthy? I also started doing herbal teas, making sure that I'm healthy. Well, I was doing that like a while before the pandemic started, but that was just one of the things I was trying to do for self-care, just making sure I was a more healthier me. I mean, and well, I did it for my whole family, but me and my boys were doing it. But, those are just some of the things I do just to step back and just breathe in it. I have to for my mental. You have to just step back and breathe and don't feel guilty about it. Because you try to be superwoman to everybody else, or you have people that you want to mentor and you want to really talk to. But how can you if you're overwhelmed and you're drained and you're exhausted? I mean, for example, last night I had 3, 4, 5 different things going on. I'm running out for 2 hours of sleep, probably an hour and 45 minutes. I was like so tired. I was like, oh my goodness. Then you're not really functioning. But then when it's time to do something, you were committed to doing something, and you got to put that hat on and be like, okay, I'm ready. I might have been like this at first. Then when the lights, camera, action.
I get it. Trust me. I totally understand.
Let's get it started.
I totally
self-care is very important. And I've learned that through this pandemic, how important it is.
Yeah. Absolutely. Thank you, Shalara. Thank you, Shalara. All right, Tiffany girl, you up next. So what have you been doing to kind of help maintain and maintenance your mental health?
I try to keep the relationships that are pouring into me close. I feel like, in the past, I think Shalara was talking about this. Maybe you just don't stay in touch with people as much. But you see people are passing away. So just try to communicate with people, try to check on people. Just staying in communication with people is one thing I've been doing. What else? Let's see here. I have just continued to work on like living more clean. Yeah. So, I mean, I feel like one of the things I was thinking about is skincare. Like, what am I using on my skin? What am I putting in my body? just all that kind of stuff. So I'm on a journey with that. And so I've just been implementing more things into that. And then what else? Oh, also there's the serenity prayer, and it just talks about how, basically don't focus on the things you can't change,
Yeah.
Good. That's
So, because I know for me, it's easy to just kind of focus on the one thing that's not working, or the one thing that I can't fix. Instead, bring it before God and lay it at his feet and walk away from it and trust that he's gonna work it out.
Amen. Thank
I'm
you,
with you on
Tiffany.
that, Tiffany.
Yeah.
Thank you, Tiffany.
Yeah.
Natalie B.
Well, something, let's see, just like Shalara, tampering yourself. I've done that, doing things for yourself, even like buying some makeup, like, oh, that you might not have bought before. I bought makeup, like, oh, well, that's a nice color. I'll try that, you know. And when you buy the makeup, even if I'm not going anywhere,
Mhm.
I'll put on my makeup and be around the house, make yourself feel a
Yes.
little, pretty, and make yourself feel good. So I'll put on my makeup and I'll go cook or something, because I love to cook and to bake. Um,
Yes.
Sometimes when I come home from work, before I get out of the car, I turn the car off. I turn off radio. I turn off, my phone, and I'll just sit there and just take a couple of, 20 minutes just to be. Nobody calling me ma'am or Natalie or asking for anything, you know. And I love my mom, but I take care of her and do things for her. So I just let myself be Natalie for a few minutes before I come in the house and do what else I need to do. Um, Getting a pedicure or doing a project. I have paints and things like that, and I've
Mhm.
painted little things, little if I have a little box or something that I want to paint to use to put like makeup brushes in, or just to put something in, I'll do that. I have a hot glue gun. I'm not afraid to use it.
Come on, somebody.
So,
Come on, hot glue
Go
gun.
on, go on.
Come on, creative arts.
bedazzle something or put some jewels on it or something, or um, I'll go to one of my favorite stores. I love Hobby Lobby,
Yes.
and
Me
I'll
too.
go into Hobby Lobby and they play instrumental Christian music.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll go in there and I'll just feel calm, even if I don't buy anything but one item. I'll walk around, and that gives me a sense of calm and peace. But um, but yeah, sometimes, or I watch a makeup video, or I watch a cooking show or something, and I'll
Mm-hmm.
do it in my car. So sometimes you just get away from everybody else. Um,
Yes.
give yourself 20 to 30 minutes and just relax. And that has really, really helped, you know, blocking out all the noise. 'Cause I mean, even in traffic, if you're in traffic driving, that can get frustrating because you hear all the people honking and all the
Yes.
engines and everything. But when you can just come back and just sit down and just be you for 20 to 30 minutes and just silence, nothing, that really, really helps. You can take a deep breath, go in the house, and do what else you need to do.
Yes. Come on,
Yeah,
somebody. I
yeah.
think that's something we definitely need to normalize, not even just women, but also for young people. They need time alone. And I'm pretty much in agreement with everyone, because I know I find myself doing that often. I sometimes get by myself. I'm sure my family probably think that's weird, but I will even. I'm married. I have an awesome husband, but sometimes I just get up, I get dressed up, put my little hair together, and throw a little makeup on, and put a cute little dress on, and I'll go to Olive Garden. I'll go there and sit there with my Bible. I'll take a notepad, so whatever the Lord is speaking to me at that particular moment, I want to jot it down, because it can, like my husband always say, like I was sharing with Shalara the other day, he always say that God is not obligated to repeat himself. So I'm always have, if I don't have my cell phone to take notes, I have like a little journal. Matter of fact, I have it right here, girl. I have this bag. I don't know if y'all got one of these like bags.
Yeah.
Something
Yeah.
that your mom or just you just get up and age. But I just
That
put
one.
this is like a traveling drawer. I have journals all up in here, Bibles, pens, you name it, it's in there. But I'll just go sit somewhere and just, I got all kind of stuff. I got all kind of stuff in there, but sometimes I just like to get by myself so I can just kind of, just kind of go through my thoughts and just process things. But that's one thing that kind of worked with me for self-care. Everybody's self-care may not look the same. For me, for you guys do know me personally, I'm very crafty. I like to do things. I like to paint. I like to build. So I may be in the garage, like painting a piece of furniture or something, because it just kind of helps relieve stress. That's what it does for me. So that's the way. That's for me. That's self-care. But I think it's so important that we do take that kind of time out for ourselves, because people will drain you. People will continually take from you if you allow it. So that's why it's also good to set boundaries also as a form of self-care. And I think another thing that I've probably have really been put into practice over the past year and a half, I have learned to say no, or just be open and honest when I don't feel like doing something. I don't have time to be making up excuses. My answer is just no, or I'm not doing it, or I'm not going. Because I just like quiet time. It could be that I'm getting older. I don't like to be in places where it's very loud, or it's just too much going on, But I'm just, I'm just a person now to where I'm just like always in my thoughts. I'm jotting down because I want to hear God. I want to know what he has for me in the next season of my life. So I can't hear him well if I'm surrounded by so many people that's constantly talking, whether it be social media, whether it just be on the phone, just talking about nothing. So I really try to protect and guard my peace. And to me, that is a form of self-care for me. So I can continue to pour out, because if I'm drained by people, if I'm drained by life, I cannot be my best self for other people. So that's my my thought and spin on that. But although we're talking about ourselves, it's just as important that young people have their time too. I remember when I went into my daughter's bedroom, she was in her own space, laying down, probably watching TikTok videos, who knows. But what she did say, she said, "Mama," she said, "it's peaceful in here." And so at that moment, I'm like, "Girl, this is my house. What you talking about? You don't need no peace." But at the same time, the same respect, they need to have that place where they can feel that they can just chill out, and they can just shut the doors to the world. They need that same space so they can sit back and think about life, because I'm learning even more that young people have just as many thoughts and worries as we sometimes have. And they also need to be able to take that time and just shut the door to the world and do what make them happy, do what make them feel good, and that's just pretty much that. I didn't add this to the list that I sent to you guys. But let me ask you guys this question. I know it's 10:30, where time is kind of passing, but when it comes to mental health and self-care for young women, what tips, what advice would you share to them about that? What would you advise them? What would you advise them in terms of like what could they do as forms of self-care? How can they protect their mental health by doing things like for us taking out time for self-care? Natalie?
I would first, the biggest thing would be admit that they do need a mental break, recognizing that, it's getting to me a little bit. I need to take a break. That would be the first thing, because some people, even young people, they'll, "Oh no, I got it," and they'll let it pile on. So I would say the first thing would be that admit that it's getting to me a little bit. I need a break. I would find something that they like to do outside, even if it's planting a flower or a plant or something like that, where if they've been in the house a lot, they can at least go outside and still be in a good space around their home. But I would find something that they would like to do that doesn't have, cut off the social media for, even if it's just an hour, and just write. I would do that. Or, what I have done also is go into the bathroom, draw a nice hot bath, light a candle.
Love them.
and just be. You can turn on some music that you like if you want to just have some instrumental gospel music playing, or even some jazz music playing, because there's nothing wrong with that.
That's your thing.
And
Yep.
right, and if you want to just go close the door, and just sit in the tub for 20 minutes or so and just relax. But I would just turn off TV, turn off the phone, and just find something that you want to do, or just sit in peace. Get you, or if you want it, they have apps that have scriptures that will play continuously, and you can sit there and just listen to the Word of God.
Yes.
So you don't have the Bible in your hand. You can listen to it, and if you just want to do that with nobody else around. But that's something that I would do, is just find something that they can do, but truly admitting that they need it first.
Awesome. Thank you, Natalie. And I'm so glad that we're having this conversation, because like I was sharing with you all prior to this live right now, and I was just telling you about, the young lady on TikTok. So Shalara, for you, ma'am, what words would you give a young woman that's dealing with like anxiety and just dealing with stress of all the changes, to kind of help her try to overcome, the mental battle that she may be dealing with right now?
Well, just like Natalie said, the first thing is admitting it, because a lot of teens don't want to admit they got something going on, or they fall into the quote unquote cliche, what goes on at home, stay at home, or Black people don't do counseling or therapy or whatever. I encourage counseling. I encourage therapy. If it's somebody that can't get counseling or therapy, I would encourage them to journal. I would encourage them to write. I deal with a lot of teenagers that are not just yet saved or don't know Christ as of yet.
Yes.
So we'll basically meet them where they are, because those that are well are not in need of a physician.
Yes.
So I like to meet teens where they are. If I bum with them off of Cardi B, if I bum with them off of Nicki Minaj, then that's where we're gonna start at. But I would encourage them to start with journaling, write about it, or find you an accountability partner, or a trust partner, or a sister girl, or whatever you want to call it. Somebody you could just reach out to, because some of them don't have the mama to talk to, or the auntie to talk to. You never know what the life is that they're living, and some of them just want somebody else to confide in. So if somebody is, for example, me, when I'm dealing with teens, I keep my limits and I keep my boundaries. However, if they're dealing with something and it's not like suicidal, then I would tell them to journal your feelings down every day. And then let's talk about your feelings. I make time. I want to talk about your feelings with you, and let's see what we could do to fix this, or let's see what we could do to fix that. I mean, some of the teens, if I have teens that are even graduating or in school, if they text me or reach out to me, if they're graduating or going to prom or finna go to college or whatever they got going on, I try to celebrate that with them. And if I can't be there in the physical, then I'll send them something. Just let them know I'm proud of them. I'm, send encouraging words. But I'll tell them to find a mentor.
Find a mentor and journal.
Find a mentor, journal. Find somebody to talk to. That's the main thing.
Yes.
Too much alone time is not good when you're in that state, if you're not there with Christ yet. Because, that's where the devil wants you to be, by yourself.
Your mind is idle.
So he can deal with you. So that's not good. I don't encourage that.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Shalara. I appreciate that. And Tiffany, and it's so amazing that everyone that that's on this live today, you guys were really handpicked. And Shalara, as you were sitting there talking, and Natalie, when you were talking, everyone deal with children, or come in contact with kids. And I know that I know coming from you, I know that you all are sharing wisdom. And so, and like Tiffany, I know that you're an educator, and you also deal with kids, through your tutoring business. what words would you share with a young person, with a young woman, whether it's a young lady or a young male, but young ladies we're talking about today? What advice would you give them to kind of help them maintain their mental health? And Shlara, and I really appreciate you even speaking on the fact that in our communities with Black people specifically, they think that they would be frowned upon if they were to go to therapy or to go see a counselor. But I think it's definitely important that they reach out to someone if they do need help. But back to Tiffany. Tiffany, what feedback or what advice could you offer a young person that's struggling in their mental health and also probably don't understand the whole reward of self-care, the benefits of self-care?
I feel like God is into balance.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like what helps me is thinking about balance. Like you can get out of balance with anything that you do, whether, like you said, social media, whether it's, not paying attention to your body when you need rest. So I would say balance. And sometimes for me, I'm a list person. I like a schedule. And sometimes I'm like, oh, why do I feel so stressed? You know what I mean?
Yes.
And it's because I'm not like, my life isn't organized. My life is not balanced. So even if you haven't thought about getting like a schedule or a planner or something like that, I would encourage you to be purposeful with your life.
Yes.
Jeremiah 29:11 says, "For I know the plans I have for you, plans to prosper you, not to harm you, but to give you hope in the future." And that might be like 11 and 12. So just remember that in the season, God has a purpose and plan for you.
Yes.
And you need to be intentional with your life, whether you're journaling as a way to just kind of like get things off your chest, verbalize what you're feeling, whether you're using a planner or a calendar, planning out your life, be intentional and being purposeful. That's what I would do.
Right.
Awesome. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I would just like to add, and great feedback, ladies, but I just like to add is log off of social media. When you start feeling like that your mental health is being affected in any type of way, and I know in today's time, even us adults, we'll be on social media because we find little videos and we share them. But sometimes it's good to unplug, because I know this to be true. Whatever you allow to feed you, that's what's going to flow out of you. So anytime that you're in an environment where you're constantly like just getting all this information, and I'm telling you, it's like spiritual junk, and you need to detox sometimes, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. Log off, remove those apps, the Facebook, unless you're watching this live, you keep it on for stuff like that. But that's when you know that it's scheduled. You just go ahead and just re-add the app. But log off, remove those apps off your phone, because it's amazing in this day and time that so many young people are dealing with mental health issues. And it's not a joke, but at the same time, there's so much stuff on social media. It's just a bunch of garbage and a lot of things that are untrue. It's not biblical, and a lot of stuff people just taking in. I'm like, they trying all these new things. I'm like, what is this? I'm like, really, I ain't gonna just say all you need, but all you do need is Jesus. You need Jesus. And if there's things that's feeding you that's going to cause your spirit to be all cluttered with a bunch of mess, sometimes you just got to pull away. Because even for myself, I fast. There's days where I just like, the Lord is speaking to him like, okay, you need to come off of here. You're doing too much. You're doing too much. You're watching too much. And you wonder why you feel different, because you're allowing all this stuff to attach to you. And it's not really necessary. So I'll just have to definitely just continue to say, log off of social media sometimes. Sometimes it's healthy, and it's not only healthy, but it's necessary.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll say that. Okay, I know that time is really winding down, so I want to kind of get through just a few more of these questions. We may not make them all, but it's all good. So be it. And so for you ladies, now the question is, now that you are an adult, what are some of the things that you wish you could have known? That you would have known or have learned that you feel would have been better prepared you for adulthood? So what are some of the things you wish you had learned when you were younger, so that you can be more effective in your adult life? We'll start with Tiffany.
Um, man. Okay. So one of the things I think I wish I would have learned when I was younger is to not allow things like people or anything like that to move me from my purpose, move me from my place, move me from who I am.
Yes.
Because people will try to tell you who you are. Society will try to tell you who you are, but God really has the blueprint to who we are. So the enemy wants to shift us and get us out of place by making us doubt who we are in God.
Wow.
Because he knows how powerful we can be for him.
Mhm.
So I think that would be like one of my greatest lessons.
All right. Amen.
Yeah.
I'm so churchy. So if I say amen, all right,
That's all
Tiffany.
right.
Thank you, girl. What you say, Natalie? What'd
I
you
said,
say?
that's all right.
Yes, girl. All right. Thank you, Tiffany, for sharing that. Natalie, what would be your response to that question? What do you
Um,
wish you would have known, that you've learned? Well, what do you wish you would have learned when you were a youngster, a young lady? Um, yeah, now that you're an adult, how do you think you could have been more effective based on what you learned or would have learned had you been, when you were younger, if I said that correctly?
mhm. um, just that where God is taking you, everybody can't go, and that's okay.
Yes.
If I had known and really understood that when I was younger, I wouldn't have been trying to be such a people pleaser.
Mm.
To make
Mhm.
sure that I wouldn't have tried to do what others wanted me to do, or whether it's dress or um, the way walk or talk or sing or whatever. Um, I wouldn't have tried to be like, okay, well, maybe they're right. I wouldn't have been. I was like, well, no, God put this in you. God gave you this. This is your own individual journey for your life. And
Yes.
although as a young girl, I had to be obedient to my mother, and respect my elders and everything, but it would have been with a lot of things that everybody can't go where God is taking you, including your friends that you've known and all of that.
That's a
And
word. That's the truth.
that would have been a huge shift. That would have been a huge shift in my even younger days. Um, but that would have helped me a lot, a whole lot.
Yes.
Mhm.
Thank you for that, Natalie. I appreciate that. And I'm sure someone who may be listening in or who may go back and listen to the recording at a later time, I know it's going to bless them because I think a lot of us deal with that, whether we admit it or not, because I know
Mhm.
just being young and out there and lost with no guidance or anything like that. I was looking for myself and I was looking for something to validate me. So I definitely get it and I definitely understand. So thank you again, Natalie. Shalara.
Something that I wish I would have known as a young lady that I know now that would have helped me. Two things. Everything happens in a time and a season.
Mhm.
There's a time and a season for everything. And your time and season might not be the time and season of somebody else's or the time and season that you think it should be. And that initiates patience within. And then also just to wait on God. That falls into waiting on God. Waiting on God and not trying to move on your own. You move when God say move, do when he says do.
Uh-huh.
And if I would have known that as a young lady, I think that would have really, really helped me going forward.
Yes. And I definitely have to agree with all that has been mentioned. Let me see for myself. It's a lot of stuff, but I don't even think we have enough time to share all what I wish I would have learned when I was younger. But I'm very big. I've talked to all of you individually, but I'm very big now on finances and having things in order. So I'll say what I wish I would have learned when I was younger was money principles. To know how you need to prepare yourself for the real world. I wish I would have taken more time to learn, because I knew some things, but not all. But I wish I would have known about credit. I wish I would have known about being okay with letting people go, because like, as you also mentioned, Natalie, people come to your life, but people go, because everybody you're raised with, everybody that you're cool with, they can't go with you. And it's not that they're bad people. It's just that sometimes seasons are up. Maybe God will come back later on in life, and they'll come back and into your life, but on a totally different level. But everybody that's walking with you are not going to always be in your life. And you have to be okay with letting people go. That's just part of the journey. That's just part of the process. Hey, Tammy, thank you for joining in too. But that's just that. But I find it to be a great joy to be able to have events like this. I find it to be a great joy to have organizations like this, to be able to have these type of discussions. Because another thing, and I'll just say this too, another thing that I wish I would have known is that it is okay to be open about things that you don't know. Because I think oftentimes we can have so much pride to where we won't even ask for help, right? And I know even when you're a teenager, you think you know everything anyway. At least I thought I did. I thought I knew everything. Nobody can tell me nothing. And that's probably why I don't know some things, probably, or why it took me a long time to learn. Because had I known about credit, I would have, when I was 18, when people were issuing like these credit cards and stuff, I wouldn't have been one of their little guinea pigs, and I wouldn't have never taken the bait. But there's like so many different things that I wish I would have known. But if anything, I wish I would have known how to swallow my pride and be willing to be taught, and to also know that I need to remain teachable, because you can't learn anything. I don't care how long you lived on this good God green earth. No one person knows everything. You can always take something from somebody. There's always something new to learn. But at the same time, you have to be willing to be open to what's being offered. And it's for me, that the whole pride thing, y'all just don't even know. It took me a lot just to even ask y'all to be on here today. but nevertheless, y'all, we're here, and y'all are like some of my close friends. So I'm just grateful that you guys did show up. Yeah, that you guys did show up. But anyway, that's about transition, and those are the things that I wish I would have learned. So I'm so glad that you guys provided your responses about that, because I know it's going to help somebody. Because even when you're young, you just don't know. You just don't know. And that even mentorship is important. That's another thing. Mentorship is important. You need somebody who's going to teach you something, because again, you don't know. And I just want to add to this, and I know many people say, well, no, you live and you learn, but sometimes you don't just have to live and learn, especially when God put people into your life to keep you from making the mistakes that they made. People are not telling you things just because of the fact they want to see you fail, because you actually do have good people out here in the world that want to see you be successful in all that you do, not in just some things, but in all things. So you definitely have to be willing to learn, and be okay with accepting help when you don't know something, whether it's your teacher, whether it's your parents, because a lot of times parents do know something now. They don't live a long time. So be okay with listening to your parents. They're only telling you something because of the fact they love you, not because they want to see any harm. So that would be my thing on that. Okay, y'all. So we're going to kind of move forward, because I think we only have a few minutes, but if we go over just a few minutes, I apologize in advance. Let's see. I had one of these questions on here. Let me see. The question is, okay, if this is the advice. My husband's right there. This is the last one. Okay. Let's log out of here. He's my cue. That's the producer. Yeah, he's the director. He's directing everything. So it's almost time for us to get up off of here. So anyway, the last question, ladies, is what advice would you offer to a young lady or peer who is struggling to follow Christ and stand up for what she believes in, and what she know to be true during this during this secular culture? What advice would you give young women who are struggling to continue to express her faith in Christ with so much peer pressure to be somebody else, or so much pressure to not, profess Christ as she know? We'll start with Shalara.
I would tell her to thine own self be true. I would tell her that God is worth it.
Yes.
I would tell her no matter what, God is worth it. And no matter what, just be herself. And if people are not willing to accept her being herself and who she is, which is a young lady of Christ or a young virtuous woman, then those are not the people that she should be around. Those are not the people that she should be with. If they can't accept or respect that. And that's just point blank, period.
Period. Period. Yes, ma'am. Thank you, Shalara.
That's my short answer because I know we got to go. And the director right there.
I think he's giving us a little grace. He just came and gave me the look, but I know what that look means. It's time to get up off of here.
Right. So I just gave you the short version. I have to say the rest for next time. Let the other ladies out.
All right. Thank you, Shalara. Natalie? Same question, Natalie. What advice would you give to young people, to a young lady who's struggling with her faith because of all the peer pressure to be somebody else, whether it is through social media, being at school? What advice would you give her?
I would agree with Shalara to be true to who you are and to know that God made you and he made you exactly who you are. And don't let other people make you feel bad for following your creator. He created you. He made you. By his grace through faith, you're saved. And you keep moving forward because there's light at the end of that tunnel. There are going to be people that are going to try to sway you different, but make sure that you stay so focused on God that it is him that you are going to want to please. Because just like the Bible says, without faith, it is impossible to please God. So if you have your faith and you keep that, then you're pleasing God. And it is better to please God than it is to please man.
Come on, somebody. Hold on, Natalie. You've been collecting offering, like Sister before yesterday. Girl, hold on. Where's my little offering bowl? Hold on. Okay,
wait a minute. Here's the plan.
That's the one you had.
Oh, that's the offering bowl. That's the bowl. We need to pass this.
That's the one you had the other night.
Yes.
You don't play the tambourine while we take up the offering. That's the music.
That's the one you had
so good.
Yes. Thank you, Natalie. Girl, you be on it. All right, Tiffany. Come on, Tiffany. Go on, leave it. Go on, grace us with some wisdom.
Ask your question again, Sheila. Ask your question again. Ask your question again.
The question was, what advice would you offer to a young lady or peer who is struggling with following Christ and standing up for what they believe in this day and time? Because with social media is constantly telling us that we have to be somebody else. It's constantly telling these young girls, that it's all about their bodies and all these other things. So now they putting Jesus on the side, in order to follow all these trends and to be who other people will desire them to be. So what words would you share? What words of wisdom would you share with the young woman that's battling that?
Your relationship with Jesus is the most important relationship you're going to have on this planet, because everybody else is going to, they're going to die, or they may leave you, or so if you put your stake in anybody else, you're going to be disappointed, and you're going to have heartbreak. And I would also say that God has plans for you. So the reason he made you the way you are is because he's not looking at just where you are right now and anything or what you have, but he's looking at your future. So the decisions that you make right now are going to affect your future. If you look in the Bible and you read the story of David, God saw him working with the sheep, being faithful there, and he raised him up to be a king. So your faithfulness now counts for what God is going to do for your future. I would just say, be faithful now while you're young. God is looking at it and he's able to keep you.
Yes.
So I would just say he rewards those who diligently seek him. So yeah, that's what I would say.
Amen.
And Sheila, can I say one other thing real
You
quick?
sure can. Go right ahead.
If the young lady feels isolated, because I remember when I was younger, I used to feel isolated, and I used to wonder why, like my cousins or certain people didn't want to hang around me, like they would be doing whatever they do, even if I didn't do what you did. Like I'm still cool or I'm still chill. I was okay with being by myself, but sometimes I wanted to be invited to the party. But I learned when I got older, one of my friends told me, she was like, because that wasn't your scene, that wasn't for you, that was not your scene, that wasn't for you. And even God will let you know. I'll let a young lady know, even if you're feeling isolated, even if you're feeling lonely, it's because, just like Natalie said, just like Tiffany said, God is preparing you for something else.
Come on.
Every scene is not for you.
Yes.
Every place isn't for you. And if he's putting you off by yourself, again, he is preparing you for something else. Because sometimes I'll be like, well, I do want to be invited to something sometimes. And they be like, what we was doing wasn't for you.
Yes.
We were popping X pills, or we were doing this, or we were doing that. And we don't feel right doing that in front of you.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I ain't gonna judge you. But the thing was,
Right.
it was meant for me to be in that situation. It wasn't meant for my spirit to be there.
Yes, come on.
So tell them, even if they feel isolated, they can make it through, and God will bring them through.
And if God is taking people out of your life, let them go. That's what Medea said.
Yep.
If people tell you who they are, believe them.
Yes.
If somebody wants to walk out of your life, let them go.
Yes. And I definitely agree with everything that just been mentioned. And like that cliche, I know it's probably a little bit cliche, but it's always said that anytime there's rejection, it's always God's redirection. If I am saying that right, He's redirecting you. And I remember just growing up as a young woman, I'm like, I knew I knew that I accepted Christ. I just grew up differently. And I knew that I just can fit in with certain crowds, but yet I still tried to force my way into it. But when I go back and I look at things now, I'm like, it was never meant for me to be a part of it. Because when I look at the group of people that I was hanging with, they are like just, totally just out there, right? But I'm like, that was God protecting me. I didn't understand that He was protecting me at that time. But when I look back now, I'm like, Lord, thank you. It was never meant for me to be a part of like certain crowds anyway. And, I think that's it. And I'm like, when God has His hand on your life, you just can't be hanging with anybody, hang with anybody anyway. He's separating you for a purpose and for a specific reason. So I think it's important that young women know that, you know what, it's all right to serve Jesus. It's all right. You can still be dope, saved, and fly. You can be all that. Christianity, I know sometimes with churches and denominations, they have you believing that you have to present yourselves a certain way, and it causes young people to think that being a Christian is just boring. No, being a Christian can still be fun. Get you some saved friends. Y'all go out and hang out, go to the movies. Y'all go out and do something that's fruitful and productive. You don't have to just hang with people and just be in church all the time. I love church and I love the Lord, but at the same time, you want to be able to live too. You can actually live life and be saved. And not just be confined just within the four walls. Go out and serve your community. Go out and do things like that. Go out and build somebody else up. Go out and do that. There's always something to do in the body of Christ. We all serve in different ways. So you have to find that niche. You have to find what worked for you and what God has called you to do. But you can be young, you can be saved, you can be fly, and also being young and serve, and live a purposeful life, even at a young age. And I wish I would have known that at a younger age, because I would not have wasted so much time with the wrong friendships. I would not have wasted so much time in the wrong relationships that were not conducive for where God was calling me. Right. So I think it's so important that young women know that you can be all that and some, and also be an influence to those that God has called you to. You can be that example at your school. And sometimes when people are living wild or foul, it's because, for one, they never seen anybody. They probably never seen that people can live a good, fruitful life just outside of the four walls. A lot of, even my baby, I'm just going to be honest. My youngest one, she don't care about no church. She don't care about none of that. But at the same time, it's so important that you live a life outside of church, because sometimes people feel kind of left out, Anyway, that's a totally different. They feel left out because they feel like, I don't want to just do that. Well, you know what? Being saved is fun. Being saved is fun because for one, you're keeping yourself out of trouble. God is protecting you, right? It's God who has kept us through this whole entire pandemic. So
Can I say one more thing, Sheila?
I'm go right ahead.
So
Oh,
when I was younger, I felt rejected a lot. I felt isolated by, family members, by my schoolmates and stuff like that. But that rejection caused me to focus on things I love, caused me to focus on God, caused me to find out who I was. So that time that maybe kids were out, hanging out with their friends, getting into trouble, trying to fit in, I was reading books. I was working on art. I was singing. I was sharing my faith. And I feel like it's the same thing with David. He was being faithful at the beginning. And so it's really important that you look at your life and know that God sees it as important.
Yes.
He's watching you now. So he's preparing you for something. So you prepare yourself, whatever gift God has placed in you, work that gift. So that when when he's ready to open that door for you, you're prepared.
Amen.
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 If I may say this.
Yes, ma'am. Go right ahead, Natalie.
While you were speaking, I thought about the story of Moses and how he started out. But when God already had a calling on his life before he could say mama, But when it was time for him to be called and he was called to the burning bush, Moses didn't fit in. He didn't fit in with, he was there, and he was treated royally, but he still didn't fit in. And so when God called him and he recognized that God called him, he wanted to see the glory of God. And so God had to take him away. He had to take away from what he was doing and his family and take him up into a place by himself. But when he came back down from where God had him, he had hid him in the midst of the rock, and he was able to see the glory of God pass by him. And sometimes God will do that. He hides us for a reason. You may want to go to the party, but he keeps us hidden in the cleft of the rock behind Jesus to keep us protected. So when it's time for us to come down off with the mountain with instructions, we can go forth with the glory of God that he has shown us. And so I thought about that, and I say, God, I thank you that I couldn't go to all the parties. I couldn't stay at everybody's house. That God was hiding me in the cleft of the rock. He was keeping me behind Jesus. So when it was time for me to come forth, I would come forth with the glory shining up on me exactly how I'm supposed to be, shining for God, going forth and working for God. So even as a young girl, giving my life to Christ young, just like Solara, I wanted to go to the party. I wanted to, go and everything, and I couldn't do all of that. I couldn't go to everybody's house.
Right.
And so you have a calling on your life. You can't go to everybody's house. You can't even date everybody. You may feel lonely. I'd like to go out on a date, but you can't even date everybody.
Girl,
so God's keeping you hidden behind Jesus in the cleft of that rock.
Yeah.
And so I thought about that. I just say, God, I thank you. And at the right time, you are going to come down off of that mountain where God has you, giving you instruction, and you are going to be shining forth with his glory. So it's going to be all right.
Yes, amen.
That's a good,
That is
so good.
True. Well, ladies, I know we on, put my husband to work. He's behind the scene, but I think it's time for us to go ahead and close. But before we close, is there anything else you guys would like to say before we go ahead and bring things to a closing? Just one piece of advice to the young ladies that are probably watching or who may go back and watch the replay at a later time.
Just keep God first and trust him in all things. If you keep God first, I promise you will never be last. Never.
That was beautiful.
Sorry about
that. That was beautiful.
I'm sorry, I missed it. I apologize. I accidentally took my own self off. So that must be a sign. It's time to go. Anyone else? I'm sorry. I apologize. I don't hear anything.
No, Natalie just gave us a great closing.
All right. Well, guys, ladies, I am so grateful that you sacrificed your time this morning and that you shared some wisdom, some insight. We got to do this again. But anyone who's out there listening, listen, feel free to reach out to these amazing ladies that are on here today. We have Shalara Harris, we have Natalie Hamilton, we have Tiffany Whiting, which I believe she will share in the link, not sharing the link, but share in the comment section. She'll provide information about her book that she has out. So if you guys are interested in that, be sure to check out the link that's inside the comment section. All right, ladies, you guys have been awesome. I hope that you guys have a blessed weekend, and I hope anyone who's listening that you be encouraged, and I hope this message bless you. All right, but you guys take care. Have a good weekend. Catch you later. All right, bye-bye.